What's up, everybody? This is Sam Shady with Shady Sports Network, and today I just wanted to ask you for a huge favor. We're growing very quickly thanks to all your guys' help, but I've got a little request for you guys, and all that is to hit that like button. So basically, the way the YouTube algorithm works is if they don't see an asinine amount of likes on each video, we will not grow. We will not be pushed out to new viewers. So without your help hitting that like button, subscribing, clicking those notifications, making sure you hit like on all these videos, we can't grow as quickly as we'd like to. So with that being said, please help support Shady Sports Network today by hitting that like button. It's completely free, doesn't cost you a thing, and in turn, it helps us continue creating great content for you to consume in the future. How's it going, everybody? This is Sam Shady with Shady Sports Network, and sitting to my right is Mr. Lorenz Stefan of the Wenatchee Skyhawks currently, although I believe he's going to be getting some offers here shortly for some other leagues. But let me get to my intro I had written down. Now it's finally time to sit down with the quarterback of the Wenatchee Skyhawks. I mean, we've had both wide receivers, we've had the head coach. Now it's time for QB1. So without further ado, man, how you doing tonight? And are you ready to talk some football?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
I definitely can't complain. I'm super excited to have you on tonight, especially after all the talking we've done over the past couple of days about your story, man. It is unreal.
Yeah, man. I'm happy to be here. Excited to tell it.
Well, I appreciate all your support over the past couple of days as well. I mean, you've been on most of my live streams, commenting and saying what's up to your players that have been on, and that support means a lot to me as well, man. I wanted to just say thank you.
Sure, man. Good content.
I appreciate that. So, as you probably know, having watched the last couple of interviews, I always kind of start with one question. What age did you start playing football, and what led to you to the game at this age?
Yeah, I started playing football in middle school. I think it was 7th grade. I think I was a tight end / receiver at the time, running back. So it was a pretty cool start into football because I was out in the country. I actually lived with my grandparents in New Mexico, and I was just used to playing baseball and basketball because in LA, where I grew up my younger years, football, I never got entered into like YAFL or like any like youth organizations. I always wanted to. So I finally got my shot in middle school in New Mexico, and I just fell in love with the game.
Absolutely. That's kind of later in life than I would have expected to hear. I mean, 7th grade, most of these guys are getting involved, pretty early, 7 or 8 years old, not 7th grade.
Yeah. I mean, I was a big time baseball player. You know what I mean? I love baseball. And then I played a lot of basketball. So I never got a shot to play football outside of like recess, but I was always good at recess. You know what I mean? So I know something I wanted to do. And then once I played, it was just, I fell in love.
Very nice. Was it like organized baseball and basketball, or was it kind of just pickup league stuff?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of organized baseball in California and New Mexico. Played a lot of different like state, regional type games. I was a pitcher, shortstop.
There you go. Do you think that prepared you uniquely to be a quarterback?
Oh, absolutely. I always remember just, growing up, just throwing rocks, like I would always just be throwing things, And whenever I started playing baseball, I was always kind of like advanced. And I always had like a stronger arm than everyone. And so I grew up pitching, double headers, playing shortstop. I was the type of guy that would be in outfield and throw from the fence all the way to home plate, throwing guys out, So my arm has always been kind of strength from baseball.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I mean, we've seen one of the more famous quarterback developers of our time, Tom House, teach a lot of quarterbacks through baseball. So it makes a lot of sense. Have you always played quarterback when it came to padded football, or have you kind of settled in at the position over time?
No, in high school, I was a receiver DB, running back. You know what I mean? It's pretty much like an athlete. And then whenever I went to college, I went to college at Scottsdale College here in Arizona, and I was cornerback. Or actually, I started out at receiver, but then I was trying to get realistic with myself. Like, if I'm going to make it to the league with my size, with my speed, you know what I mean? I'd be more of a corner, you know what I mean? At 5'11", 6 foot, 180, you know what I mean? I'm thinking more of a corner. So I switched over to corner, and played both of my years at Scottsdale at corner, and ended up becoming a All-American. We played Team USA versus Team California. So basically all the top All-Americans from around the United States versus all of the top All-Americans in California. And I actually ended up getting the MVP. But when it was time to transfer out to my university, I didn't have my credits. So I just continued to kind of just play semi-pro and just kind of work.
Gotcha. So when exactly did the transition to quarterback happen?
Yeah. So, I mean, a few years after, I mean, I continued playing semi-pro. I've never stopped playing football. I played year-round football for literally probably like the past 10, 15 years. It's crazy. But I was playing on a fall team out here in Arizona, and they played a lot of California teams. And I was a receiver, and I was running routes, and like the quarterback wasn't throwing me the ball. And we had just come off a loss. And he was, I don't know if he was missing practice or if he was late to practice or what, but I went over to quarterback, and it was just a natural fit just for me going in at practice. And then literally I played quarterback. I'm pretty sure like our next game on the road in California, had a big road win. And I just kind of never looked back. And also flag football kind of really helped me get to where I am now, because I had my own 8-man flag football team here in Arizona. At the time, it was really big. The flag football community is still really big, but the 8-man specifically was really big. And I had my own team, so I had to face a lot of adversities, not only managing my own team, but playing quarterback, you know what I mean, and coming up with plays and a lot of those things. So I play flag and I play semi-pro, and that's kind of what really got my skills together at quarterback.
Interesting. That makes a lot of sense now that we've talked about your whole career, and we'll get into it in a little bit here, but how you were able to install offenses and later stops and stuff like that. So that makes a lot more sense now. Past or present players allowed, who do you try and model your game after as a quarterback?
I try to model. I wouldn't say I try to model it. Or actually, yeah, I try to model it around one of my mentors, Nate Davis. I mean, I love the way he has a one and done type mentality. You know what I mean? He's on the field and trying to get off the next play. You know what I mean? Off from a touchdown. So I would say him, but I don't really try and play outside of. I just try to have my own style. You know what I mean? For the most part, but I would say my styles kind of resemble certain players like Russell Wilson. I think a lot of the times, like Patrick Mahomes, you know what I mean, gonna beat you with his arm. But really, when it comes to the arena game, Nate Davis is somebody that like I try and kind of replicate, and I try and really watch his game and use what he does, because he literally doesn't have to beat you with his legs at all, and he can just air it out. You know what I mean? And I love that in the quarterback.
Agreed. I mean, for those who don't know, Nate Davis, former San Francisco 49er for a brief time, great indoor football league quarterback like you're speaking about. I mean, one of my favorite guys in the IFL for quite a while now, so definitely fun to watch. At 6 foot, 195 pounds, you're slightly undersized as a quarterback, but we're kind of seeing a trend of guys that are more towards your height and weight. Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. We could go all day with more players that are that size. I mean, do you believe that they're helping open doors that maybe weren't there 5 to 10 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, teams now, they want dual threat quarterbacks a lot of times. And a lot of taller quarterbacks aren't very mobile. So I think they're starting to see that you can have a pocket passer and a mobile quarterback all in one. So I think that's kind of being a little bit more of the norm. But I think I personally bring the unmeasurables, the heart, the pre-snap reads, the leadership, the dog mentality. That's what I feel like I bring to the table. So you can look at somebody's height, you can look at their resume, but the things that you can't like dictate and measure is their heart, and those different type unmeasurable type things. And that's what I think I bring to the table. And also my experience. I may not have a lot of experience at the highest level, but the amount of touchdowns and the amount of games that I've been playing at quarterback in the last, I'd probably say 6 to 7 years is crazy. And I'm a gamer. So that's how I kind of overcome the height obstacle.
That definitely makes sense. So we talked about it off camera. You've kind of bounced around quite a bit, trying to break your way into the professional football world, more or less taking an opportunity wherever you felt suited for your particular skill set. Originally, you started at the JUCO level as a well-regarded cornerback. Talk to me about your fight to get to the professional level. I mean, you went through some ugly experiences with some teams in my home state, actually, I believe one of them was the Pueblo. Remind me of the name.
Steel?
The Pueblo Steel, that's what it was. I'm sorry. And then there was one other organization that you had quite an issue with as far as trying to get your career off the ground. What happened in these organizations that ultimately didn't pan out for you?
Yeah. So the first one was the Pueblo Steel in Colorado. At the time, I was working at the car wash and met a guy that knew a guy that was a coach over there. And basically, he sent him my film. They're interested in me coming in, and it seemed all legit. And then I got there, and come to find out, they didn't actually have like a home arena. They were going to be like a travel team, which I was fine with. So we started practicing and such. That was when I met my offensive coordinator, Maurice Purify. And me and him became really, really close because he's the person that really taught me the game of arena. And after a few weeks being out there, come to find out, there's guys weren't getting paid. There was like some scams going on with like the ownership. And basically they fired Purify without paying him after like, I think it was like the first game. It was basically they're just trying to send him home without paying him. And whenever they let him go, I decided to go with him because it was all trouble. So he lived in Arizona, and we both pretty much just drove back together. But it was just a mess. And then there was another situation where at the time I was working at the car wash again, and I got an opportunity to go to a tryout in South Carolina for the Upstate Dragons. And I packed up, went on the tryout, got signed at the tryout, me and arena quarterback, Shane Martinez. I think he was on the Rapid City Marshals this year. Anyways, both me and him got signed. And I ended up driving my car all the way to South Carolina from Arizona and to camp. And come to find out, they actually invited 2 other quarterbacks to camp. And so there's 4 quarterbacks. And then within a couple days of camp, the coach wanted to try to move me to receiver without even really getting a fair shot at quarterback. And I ended up looking for a different opportunity, and I ended up just coming back home to Arizona. But that team ended up I think they only won like one game, and then they ended up folding. You know what I mean? They didn't even finish the season. I think that owner and head coach ended up suiting up at quarterback later in that season. It was a mess. So I had my share with some of these kind of third tier arena type organizations. So it's awesome to be a part of, you know what I mean, the Duke City Gladiators, the Wenatchee Skyhawks organizations, you know what I mean, just because there are some bad apples out there and bad experiences that are kind of killing players' dreams for sure.
Agreed. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to highlight that. I mean, for you to go through situations like that and like have an opportunity presented to you and then have it kind of ripped away in the worst possible way. I mean, for you to keep motivation through all that and continue to find an opportunity and just continue to claw your way to the top is inspirational in itself, in my mind. But in 2017, absolutely. So you end up with the Cactus League, a fairly well-known football league based in Arizona. You play for the Spartans, where as a rookie, you win Offensive Player of the Year and first-team All-League quarterback. You led the league in passing yards as well. How do you feel about that performance that season? I mean, did you expect to dominate when you stepped into the league?
I mean, I expected to be dominant just because I know my abilities, but I didn't know I was going to have the season that I did. One thing, me and my receiver, his name is Martwan Weaver, me and him had a really, really strong connection, kind of like me and Max did. And he was a great route runner, explosive. But we threw, you know what I mean, probably 3-4 times a week. We'd meet up for 30 minutes, an hour, and just go through the route tree like clockwork, you know what I mean? And in the rain, you know what I mean? Like we were dedicated. And then whenever we went into the season, things just kind of meshed perfectly. And my offensive coordinator was Aaron Wilkins. He's one of the probably the top offensive coordinators out here in Arizona, and he's really like a pass strong type offensive coordinator. He really let me do my thing, and he heard me. You know what I mean? There's a lot of times where I'd go back to the sideline and I'd tell him what I'd see, and he'd trust me and to let me run it. You know what I mean? And having relationships like that with OCs, that's kind of what put me over the hump. Same thing with the Skyhawks. Coach Ronnie, he was big on just kind of letting me do my thing, and if I saw some, he'd trust me and let me go with it. But yeah,
that's awesome. I mean, in my mind, a coach is more there to put the player in the right position and let the player do his thing. And right. It sounds like you have found some coaches that have allowed you to do just that.
Definitely. I mean, and I've also met some coaches that haven't, you know what I mean? And it's night and day. It's like I'm on a leash, you know what I mean? Like you want to be set off the leash to do your thing, you know what I mean? Because if you're a leader, you're a captain, you know what I mean? You're the voice of this offense. Like you can't really be vocal and do your thing if you're being held back, you know what I mean? So I've definitely faced some coaches that were kind of all ego and, you know what I mean? And they didn't really hear me on a lot of opinions and things. And those are the type teams and coaches that I didn't really mesh well with.
Definitely. And that makes perfect sense. I mean, if you're a quarterback, you're supposed to be the leader of the team, the leader of the offense. If you don't even have a say in things, I mean, how are you supposed to lead from, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. It doesn't make sense from a coaching perspective in my mind, but hey, some coaches are set in their ways. Right. So also that season, you end up playing in the Team America versus Canada national game in Toronto, Canada, correct?
Yeah, that was an awesome experience.
You actually served as the starting quarterback and captain?
Yeah, it was awesome. So I didn't know I was going to start or be the captain, but a week of practices, I guess I was voted, or I don't know if the coaches decided or what, but I was that guy. But it was awesome. So we traveled to Toronto, Canada, and we played against, I think it was the MIFA All-Stars, and basically like an all-star team out of Toronto. And it was just an amazing experience because they had like the girls teams playing each other. They had a team from Mexico. It was just a awesome experience. The city was amazing. Canada's awesome. If you've never been to Canada, I definitely recommend going to Canada. Toronto was like a Canadian New York. You know what I mean? If you can imagine what that would be like, but it was dope. But yeah, that experience was awesome. Jim Collins was my coach. He's a great mind. He's one of the guys that kind of really taught me how to kind of seize the day or seize the moment. You know what I mean? Especially as a quarterback, because there's a lot of moments that you don't get back. And then Mike Cordy is he's kind of the owner and facilitator of that whole organization. I'm actually looking to play in LA with Team World versus I think it's like Team Mexico in December. So I got invited to that as well. So I'm excited and we're gonna play at the SoFi Stadium. So that's huge. And I got some family in LA, so I'm excited to be able to do my thing in the big stadium.
That's awesome. That's super cool. I mean, that's worth playing in just to play in that stadium, I would imagine.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So how, in a game like that, what kind of coaching do you receive? I mean, is it pretty much just offensive install and, hey, let's go play?
Yeah. For the most part, you only have a handful of practices. You got to learn it on a go. Jim Collins was good on kind of making it dummy proof, you know what I mean? Making it easy. So, because he understands that you only have a few days to get the whole system going. But also he sends out the playbook in advance. So you got to do your homework in advance as well. And it shows whenever you get there, it's free game. Like there's not guys that are just like walking in as starters. It's free game. Like whoever's best is going to, you know what I mean, get that position, you know what I mean? So you got to come in prepared. But yeah, it's just pretty much just install. And then we kind of compete maybe for a few hours during practice, and that's about it.
Very nice. I mean, I always wondered about that. Those games have got to be kind of difficult to a certain extent. I mean, learning all new teammates, a whole new playbook in like a week or two, and then you go play a game and hope you perform well. I mean, that's got to be tough. After the 2017 season, you end up bouncing around a little bit, starting with the Upstate Dragons we spoke about a little bit ago, before moving on to the Phoenix Outlaws. What about your experience in the 2018 and 2019 seasons helped you get where you're at today? Yeah,
so with the Outlaws, 2018, we had two quarterbacks. We had a quarterback battle going on. This other quarterback was very, very mobile, very, very shifty. And it seemed like the coaches and the team were kind of torn. So he actually started the first four games or so. And I was actually playing a little bit of receiver. I was in support. I was being a team player. I knew I was better than him in practice. I mean, I'd be killing them. But they wanted to rock with him, and I was being a good team player and trying to help where I could at receiver and stuff. And then I finally got my shot like week 5, and we went on a run. We won the next like 7 games, and I ended up taking them to the championship. And we ended up actually losing in the championship. But it was a great run. I think we started the season off 0-2, and then like I said, I didn't see the field at quarterback until probably about like week 4 or 5, and then led them to the championship. So that was a great experience. And then 2019, who was I with 2019? I think it was the Spartans, right? Or no, that was the Outlaws. Was 2019. 2020 COVID year was I was back on the Spartans, and yeah, we went undefeated, 4-0, and then COVID hit. And yeah, so that's pretty much 2019, 2020. That's pretty much what I was doing then.
Exactly. So following 2020, after that 4-0 run that you just spoke about and the season getting shut down, it seemed like you took it maybe not personally, but you took it to heart that you wanted to show out the next season, because in 2021 with the South Phoenix Rebels, you end up being the starting quarterback and you lead them on a 14-0 run. I mean, you passed for 2,024 yards, 19 touchdowns, averaged 15 yards per completion. What was the season like to go undefeated after what you had withstood the past year?
Man, it was a movie. It was crazy. Not how you think it would have been, though. There's a story behind it. So how I got to the Rebels was, I'm not sure if you heard of a quarterback named Daniel Smith.
I think the name rings a bell.
He was the backup quarterback for Columbus Lions this year. He also won a championship with the West Texas Warbirds.
There we go. That's where I know his name from.
Yeah, so he had a history of playing with the Spartans as well. And basically what happened was during COVID, he was going to come back, or after COVID, he was going to come back to the Spartans, and it was going to be both of us. And at the time, my coach, Love, from the Rebels reached out to me because he heard what was going on, and he's like, I mean, you guys are both starting quarterbacks out here. Like, he's like, I have a defense. All I need is a quarterback. He's like, I believe in you. My guys really want you. And at the time, a lot of their Usos and a lot of their like main guys started reaching out to me. And so I felt valued, and they wanted me, and I wanted to win. And it seemed like my Spartans were kind of torn between me and Daniel Smith. And so I went and played with the Rebels. How that went was, it was crazy. We had an amazing defense. I'm talking about lights out defense, dogs. Offense, we were high powered, you know what I mean? Take the top off. But yeah, we went on this run, went 14-0. But what was the crazy part, what happened was, going into the playoffs, our coach, Coach Love, he announced that he had cancer. And so this whole undefeated run, I think we were like 9-0 or 10-0 at the time. Everything just became serious. It wasn't fun no more. You know what I mean? Like our coach, our mentor, you know what I mean? You know, our father figure. He was an amazing coach. He basically, like I said, was fighting this cancer. And so winning was not an option no more. You know what I mean? Having fun and all that other stuff, like it was hard to do. And especially me as a quarterback, it brought so much pressure on me that like I had to win. I had the defense. You know what I mean? I have this great organization. You know what I mean? My coach is sick. Like, I have to win. And early, before even the season, Coach Love was talking about a national championship. You know what I mean? So we already manifested this, and this was the vision the whole time. And it's just crazy because during the playoffs, he was sick on the sideline coaching offense and defense. I'm talking about, I'm running back and forth from the huddle to him to the sideline while he's in a chair calling plays because he doesn't have the power to stand up. You know what I mean? So,
wow.
Man, I almost get emotional talking about this shit, but it was really tough because like from those 3 playoff games, we literally saw him deteriorate, man, before our eyes. And after we won the championship 14-0 against the Spartans, so you already know I had a chip on my shoulder. We played the Spartans in the championship and beat them in the championship. I think a week or 2 later, we're gonna plan for the state championship game because there's 2 leagues out here. But we have the top league that what we're in, and then we have one of the lower leagues, and they wanted to play like a championship game, but they're having a problem like scheduling it. And I guess our coach couldn't fight any longer. And he ended up passing away like a week or 2 after, like immediately. It was crazy. And so Right after our team won a undefeated championship, our coach passes away. We're going to his funeral, and he's a legend. He's a Hall of Fame minor league coach, you know what I'm saying? And so it was just crazy. And then we find out that we're actually not in no type of national standings polls or anything. For some reason, they didn't have that, like the league didn't have that lined up. And so we just thought like our season was over. We went undefeated. We lost our coach. It was just over. And then in like October, November, we get contacted that we got invited to the national championship game. And we have like about a month of practices, and then we ended up going to Vegas to play in the national championship against the Capital Fury. Capital Fury or something like that.
Out of curiosity, I mean, you said your coach passed away and he was coaching offense and defense. Who stepped in?
So we had another like owner coach that kind of stepped in and kind of filled his role. At the time during the national championship, we brought in some new guy, and I guess he was an old friend of our coach. And like I said, we went to the national championship, but we didn't run a lot of the stuff that we had actually played that we actually did throughout the season, because it was completely different. You know what I mean? We had a new OC, which was one of those guys that had kind of ego and wanted to do it his way versus what got us to this point. You know what I mean? So it was a tough situation actually going into the national championship. We ended up losing by 3 points. But it was a crazy journey, man. Crazy.
No doubt. That sounds insane. I can't imagine losing your coach and still having to go compete in a national championship game, let alone that run.
Show you this ring real quick.
Wow. That is legit. That is awesome.
Yes, sir. It has on the brim, it says memory of Ed Love. So yeah, this is what we got out of it. You know what I mean? And a lot of life lessons for sure.
No doubt. Something tells me that's not the last ring you'll have by the time you hang them up, though. I could be wrong.
Not at all. Not at all.
Definitely. So, unfortunately, we've reached a time in the episode where I have to do an obligatory sponsor shout out. So, we are sponsored by SeatGeek. So, do us a solid if you purchase any sporting event tickets. Sorry. Apparently, I can't speak at the moment. Please use our code Shady at checkout. It'll save you $20, and in turn we get a kickback, which helps us continue to create awesome content with great people like Mr. Lorenz here, and hopefully we can continue to grow in the future. With that out of the way, I'm going to play some highlights from this man's career. So it's time to show you what happened in 2022 when he joined the LFA. If it's going to want to pop up, what's going on there? Oh, there we go. So this one doesn't have any sound. I'm just going to go ahead and ask you some questions over it. In 2022, you finally get the call from a couple larger, more well-known leagues. First, you get an offer from the LFA in Mexico, where you play for a new team called the Tijuana Galgos. What was your experience like in the LFA? I've heard Mexico loves its football.
Man, it was an amazing experience. So the organization was top notch. The facility was, I think it seated like 40,000 fans or something like that. It was a huge soccer arena. The people were just so friendly. The players, they love the game of football. It was an amazing experience. And it's something that I'll take for life, and I'll remember for life for sure.
Definitely. So there's actually a play I want to highlight. I'm going to see if I can get right back to it. Give me a second. I think it was right here. Yeah, so it looks like they're showing blitz. You're talking to your running back, adjusting the play, it looks like. And despite the fact that they bring everybody right in your face and you get immediate pressure, you still deliver the ball. I just thought that was an amazing play to highlight, because it shows your football IQ. You saw the blitz coming, you read the play, you hit your open receiver with no hesitation. I mean, seconds flat. So, I mean, that's one thing that I think you bring to any team you go to. I mean, quick decision-making, pre-snap reads like you spoke about before, and then ultimately football IQ.
Hey, can you run that back? Can I walk you through that play real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could slow it down, but unfortunately I can't do that on here.
So I was actually getting my my Peyton Manning on at this moment. So if you look, you see that corner way off, right? I look at the receiver and I actually hit on my hip. Watch, reverse it, go back. Go back a little bit more, yeah.
Sorry about that.
I actually checked to the receiver and I tap on my hip, which is a hitch route because he's way off. And then I communicate to my running back, fake a zone. And so, look, I'm telling the receiver right now, check hitch, check hitch. And then I tell my running back, you know what I mean, fake this zone right here. So I ended up faking the zone and then just banging the hitch. So that's when I'm playing. That's when I'm playing at my best, is when, you know what I mean, is when I'm seeing the field, when I'm literally just taking what the defense gives me, when I'm really in my, you know what I mean, I call it my check Omaha mode, you know what I'm saying? That's when I'm in the zone, is when I'm checking and when I'm adjusting, you know what I mean, when I'm going on the move.
Absolutely. I mean, in my mind, a quarterback they have to have the football IQ that most players don't, because at that point, I mean, you have to do stuff like that. You have to adjust to what the defense is giving you and take every little bit of yardage you can get, because they're not going to just hand it to you in any league at this point.
Right.
So it's been incredibly fun to watch the highlights, because I was looking at it. I was like, I mean, we talked about it. You're definitely very cerebral on and off the field. But seeing it in play on the field is a whole different experience for me personally.
Yeah, it's all experience, man. I do this, you know what I mean, from flag to semi-pro to the pro world, you know what I mean? It's just something, like, I have hours and hours of game time, you know what I mean? So there's certain routes, there's certain reads that, you know what I mean, it's just normal to check to and to read, you know what I mean?
Makes sense. So unfortunately this season, despite the fact that we're showing you all these highlights, did not go very well to start off. You ended up starting off 0-2 and you got injured. This ultimately led to your release from the team, but also opened up a door to a new opportunity with the Duke City Gladiators of the IFL. Unfortunately, quarterback Nate Davis, a man you spoke on before, tore an ACL and was out for the year. This meant the team needed to add a quarterback, and that's when you got the call. Tell me about your time with the IFL as Ramon Atkins and Nate Davis's backup.
Yeah, so in February, I actually reached out to Nate Davis and actually asked him for advice. I sent him my film, and I was like, hey, man, is there any... Actually, no. I hit him up. And I was going to go to Albuquerque because actually that's where I graduated. And I was going to go out there and train with him because he posted like a flyer. And I reached out to him on Instagram and I'm like, hey, man, like I would love to go out there for a weekend and work with you. No. Kind of told him a little bit about me. And then he's like, send me your film. And then I sent him my film and then he's like, would you want to come to camp? And I'm like, camp, like what, like for like Duke City? And he's like, yeah, I need a backup. And I'm like, man, that'd be amazing. And so originally I had an offer to go to camp with Duke City, but they took forever to send me like my contract. And I got an offer from the LFA in the meantime, and the pay was just way more. I mean, I was looking at a $600 a game difference between the two. I was going to be the starter of a brand new organization. So it was hard because I always wanted to get into the IFL, and like, especially I was going to play in my hometown. And so it was really hard for me. But it was a no-brainer that I needed to go to Mexico. Hold up, what were we talking about? We were talking about Duke City, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, I get to Duke City, basically I get released, in Mexico. I hurt my sternum and, I hit up Nate and I find out he tore his ACL and I'm like, oh wow, like there's a legit shot. And I reached out to Coach, Sherman Carter, and he was like, hold up, I want to see how the quarterbacks do this game. But be ready Monday if I give you a call. And I shot them. I saw they didn't do good. I think they played against Frisco Fighters, and there was, I think, like 5 or 6 interceptions or something like that. And I texted him Sunday morning, and he's like, "Did you see the game?" He's like, "They're late on a lot of their throws." He's like, "When can you come?" And I was basically on the road to Albuquerque on like that Tuesday. And when I got there, they had Caleb Holbrook and they had Ramon Atkins. And I was kind of like the third guy that was kind of just making my way. And eventually Ramon won the starting job, and then Caleb kind of just, I guess, quit the team or went back to work or whatever. And then I was the backup. And we went through the whole season for the most part, me as a backup, getting better, working every day with Nate Davis. You know what I mean? I was at his house a lot, just watching film, going over different reads and different assignments. And I learned a lot at Duke City. I'd never see the field, but I did definitely learn a lot, and I'm grateful for the experience. Gina Thomas, the owner, she was she's a great owner. She was definitely accepting and having me in, you know what I mean? Because I was kind of like a nobody, you know what I mean? I know a lot of these big owners and organizations, they want high profile names, especially at quarterback, you know what I mean? But they brought me in, and it was all love, and it was an amazing experience. And I got to play every day against a solid defense. And ultimately, that's what helped me transition over to Wenatchee Skyhawks. You there? You kind of breaking up. I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I apologize. So for anyone who doesn't watch the IFL and hears backup, consider this fact: the Duke City Gladiators, led by Atkins and Davis, led the league in touchdown passes this season. So he wasn't riding the bench for no reason. There was some quality quarterback play ahead of him, despite the fact that they had some bad games. So, you know, with that being said, this man's still a very quality quarterback for anybody questioning that. With that being said, I'm going to play some of your highlights of your next stop, the Wenatchee Skyhawks. Mute this so we can keep talking. Kevin, I see you back there. Give me just a second, man. We got a couple more questions to run through, and we will get right to you, buddy. So you ultimately get an offer to join the Skyhawks in a win or go home situation. Talk to me about the level of pressure you felt walking into the first game.
I felt a lot of pressure because I literally got the phone call that Friday, the Friday before then, and I flew out to Seattle. I didn't get out there till, you know what I mean, Saturday morning, like Friday night, and did a walkthrough with the team and kind of got the receivers like on the same page what I wanted to run. But they're pretty much like, this is a winner go home situation. Like, I know we can beat these guys. We've never beat these guys before. And I was just like, I don't know what I got myself into. But I knew that I had some weapons. I know I had Max Novak. I know I had Nakia Brown. I know I had Calvin Lowe, you know what I mean? So like, I knew I could get the job done, you know what I mean? And so I went into the game like how I go into any other game, pissed off, you know what I mean? I like a lot of pregame motivation from like Mike Tyson and stuff. But I went into the game pissed off and used what I learned at Duke City with Nate Davis and a lot of those same plays and just plugged it in. And we went crazy. I think I had 9 touchdowns, 8 passing, 1 rushing. I think we put up 60 points. And then that kept our season alive and sent us to the playoffs to play Idaho, first round of the playoffs in Idaho.
Interesting. So you end up obviously leading your team to a victory against Idaho. I heard that Idaho was a little angry about that victory, though.
I'm sure they were like surprised. I'm sure they were like, where did he come from? Like, hold up, this is a total different team. Because at the end of the day, like, I was just the right piece to their puzzle. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, like, I was just like a savior or anything. It was like, no, like they had weapons, they had pieces, they had the organization, you know what I mean? I was just that right piece to their puzzle, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm sure they were pretty upset, and they're even more upset when we went to their home and put up 80 in front of their fans, and I had 10 touchdowns. They were shocked.
Definitely. I can imagine. All of a sudden you come out of nowhere and you light up one game, and then the next game you light it up as well. And they're like, wow, where did this dude come from? But at the same time, like you said, it's not as if Wenatchee didn't have talent on the roster prior to your arrival. Obviously, Max Novak, Nakia Brown, Calvin Lowe, like you mentioned, multiple other guys that I'm forgetting at the top of my head. But I mean, this roster is pretty talented for being where it's at, and in a lesser known league. But we're trying to work on that. We're trying to bring a little bit more hype around the AWFC for their third season. How did the offer with the Skyhawks ultimately come about?
Yeah, so every week in the IFL, like it was like a decision whether I was going to travel or whether I wasn't going to travel. And at the time, Duke City, they played Frisco, and I hit up Coach Carter and asked if I could travel, and basically I wasn't traveling in that game, and I got a message from one of my longtime mentors, Derek Ford. He's a trainer out there in the Washington area, about a team that's needing a quarterback. And it's an arena team, and I pretty much sent my film. I had some practice film of me at Duke City, and started talking to Coach Brown. And Coach Brown was like, we can use you. It's a winner go home situation. I have all the pieces, and basically the only thing is you got to get your way out here. And I'm like, oh shoot, so I gotta come up with a plane ticket. You know what I mean? And but I was looking at the opportunity. I'm like, man, this is could be my pro debut. You know what I mean? No practice. I'm not even worried about none of that. I'm like, I've been waiting for this moment. You know what I mean? And I've heard about Idaho Horsemen, so I'm not gonna say I was intimidated, but I known them being a lot better. And so I was like, oh shit, my first game, no practice. So I ended up just jumping on the opportunity. My uncle sponsored me a ticket, and he's like, man, this is a crazy opportunity. And I didn't know what I was going to do with Duke City, if I was going to be done with Duke City or what. And I just pretty much just took off and played, and ended up flying back out to New Mexico Monday or Tuesday morning for practice. But yeah, he pretty much was like, I have 6 quarterbacks in mind. And I'm like, well, if I go, am I going to play? I'm not going to travel all the way out there. And he's like, no, I've watched your film. You're my guy. If you come out here, you're my guy. And I was like, and I just kind of weighed the pros and cons, you know what I mean? And I've traveled, like I said, I've traveled all the way to upstate South Carolina for a tryout before. And I spent money on tryouts. So I'm like, I can use this as an opportunity for them to maybe sign me for next year, even if we lose. I'm thinking this is just an opportunity. I can get some film. And so I ended up taking the investment, and it paid off, man, for sure. I ended up getting a couple looks by Albany Empire, Tucson Sugar Schools after my performances. So I would say that investment definitely was worth it.
I would agree. Would you recommend the AWFC to quarterbacks looking for a chance to prove themselves, given your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Great foundation. Chris Reynolds is an awesome league owner. You know what I mean? Great platform. The competition level is very solid. The arenas that we played in were all legit. You know what I mean? So you have that professional atmosphere. It's not like some organizations that I've seen with arena football or indoor football. Quality film. So yeah, I would definitely recommend to all players, not just quarterbacks, to all players that can get a chance to play in the AWFC is a great stepping stone for if they're trying to level up, for sure. Or
Agreed.
even, and that's the thing, you don't even got to level up. Like, honestly, what I felt those 2 games, that was almost like my NFL. It was like the experience and what I did and what I was capable of and how we just shocked everyone. Like, it was an amazing experience. So, like, that could be someone's NFL. You know what I mean? So definitely.
I like that answer. That's good. That's good. I mean, it's encouraging for a newer league to hear that from a guy who's got experience in bigger leagues like the LFA and the IFL. So, I mean, that's super encouraging for the future of the league. And hopefully, you know, they keep going the way they're going and they continue to make an impression on players like yourself and hopefully build up more of a following and maybe get some more teams in the future. So off camera, we talked about a couple guys who stood out above the rest of your mentors. 2 former NFL players. We spoke about one of them earlier, actually both of them earlier, Maurice Purifoy and Nate Davis. When did these guys come into your life and what did the influence that they have on you? How did they shape your career as a whole? Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So Purify, he was my offensive coordinator in Colorado, like I was telling you. We experienced that whole mess up in Colorado together. And then, like I said, we came back to Arizona, and whenever we came back to Arizona, we just became close, you know what I mean? And I kind of looked at him kind of like as like big bro, you know what I mean? Even though like our age difference wasn't much of an age difference, you know what I mean? But like, he's the experience, he's been where I want to be, you know what I mean? And I'm a firm believer, like, you are who you hang out with, you know what I mean? And so me and him became really close. And he actually trained me to get ready for Mexico and also that Duke City camp. So he was training me like literally 4:30 in the morning for free. You know what I'm saying? Like, training me, and like, he's just that type of dude. And there's a lot of head coach openings, and he's waiting for his opportunity. He's a brilliant mind. I know Rod Smith was offensive coordinator for Northern Arizona Wranglers this year. They won a championship. Him and Rod Smith were dynamic duos together, right by side. You know what I mean? And they're both great minds. And Maurice Purify is actually looking for I'm not gonna say he's looking, but he's open to a coaching opportunity because he's the same thing as me. He's kind of got the run around in the arena world from a coaching aspect. So he got the run around in Colorado, and then also he was going to be the head coach of Ontario Bandits of the NAL before they ended up folding. I think it was like last year or something like that. And they ended up folding, and they owed him money or whatever. So he's kind of getting the runaround as a coach, but he would be an amazing head coach, OC, if he gets an opportunity. And then Nate Davis, like I said, I just reached out to him and wanted to go train with him, wanted to pick his mind because I used to go to his games, him in whenever he played like the Rattlers and stuff. And so I became a fan of just his play style. And so I reached out, and it was all love, and he gave me opportunity to come to camp. And whenever I ended up getting to Albuquerque, he was still a part of the team. He had just torn his ACL, so he was still going to practices, and I'm still showing up to his house throughout the day, and he's mentoring me and showing me the game. And you know, I mean, he has his family there, and he's just that type of guy. And it's crazy because him and Purify, they both look at the game completely different, like film and the way they're just such students of the game. And it makes sense why they're like arena legends, you know what I'm saying? And it's just crazy being able to work with those guys like so close and actually be able to call them friends, you know what I mean? So that's definitely been a blessing when it comes to my football career.
Agreed. So one last question, and then I'll let you get out of here, and we'll get on to Kevin Simmons, who's been patiently waiting in the background. What do you see yourself doing after your playing career is over? I mean, are you possibly a coach? It kind of sounds like you're headed that way.
I mean, I've coached. I've coached high school. To be honest, I've had two dreams to be in the NFL, and one was to be rich. So the NFL, I'm not going to say that window is completely closed, but, you know what I mean, it's closing more and more every day, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, my dreams have pivoted. So getting to the highest level for football is one of my dreams, you know what I mean? And then, like I said, getting rich. So I'm going to figure out how to switch from athlete to a businessman, kind of like Floyd Mayweather, you know what I mean? Because I do have an opportunity to still live my dream of being rich, you know what I mean? So not necessarily in the NFL, but I still have that rich opportunity, you know what I mean? So really I'm a salesman. So I want to kind of come up with my own business or whatever I got to do to have that freedom and, you know what I mean, make millions.
There you go, man. There you go. Well, I am obviously a fan of yours after watching all those film and stuff lately, so I'll be rooting for you wherever you end up. But with that being said, I do need to get to Kevin. Have a great night, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Your story, like I said, was very interesting, very fun to hear. And I hope to speak to you next month during our AWFC All Access event where we got kind of that open forum deal going on.
Definitely. Do you mind if I give a quick shout out?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely want to shout out, my family that supported me. My Uncle Andre definitely helped me financially through this whole journey. My mom, Griff Carl Sports Agency. He's my agent. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely on the back end looking out for me. I want to thank the Galgos, Tijuana Galgos organization for bringing me in. Duke City Gladiators, the Wenatchee Skyhawks, Rico Brown personally, I truly appreciate you. You know what I mean? Took well care of me whenever I was out there in Seattle. I truly appreciate you. And glory to God, man. And I really appreciate you for providing this platform for me and for all these players. I'm a true fan, man. Like, these stories are in depth, and it's crazy because I watch these podcasts on YouTube and stuff, and it's cool being able to like actually be involved in something like this and being involved in the football community from arena to USFL, you know what I mean? This platform is awesome. So I truly appreciate you, man.
Hey, the feeling's mutual, brother. I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you coming on and telling our story. That takes a certain amount of trust. So, I mean, I really appreciate that, and we'll definitely keep in touch, and we'll definitely have you on again for sure.
For sure, man. Keep doing your thing, man.
Definitely. I appreciate that. Have a great night. All right. So without further ado, we're going to bring in Kevin Simmons, defensive back from the Tri-City Rush, who has never lost a professional game. So we can start right there, man. What does it feel like to be a rookie who has never lost a game and got to kiss a trophy on his first season?
Hey, man. First, I want to say I appreciate you for bringing me onto the show. And second, it was awesome. It was great. Going undefeated first year, coming from where I come from, the school I came from in college and everything, from not winning to now winning the championship. Hey, I'm blessed. All glory to God.
Absolutely. Hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Like I just said, it takes a certain amount of trust to have you guys on here to tell your story, and I really appreciate that y'all trust me to come on and tell it. I mean, it really means a lot to me because, honestly, I'm here for a good story, and all of you guys have been bringing the heat for sure. So without further ado, let's start with an introduction into yourself in your own words, and then we'll kind of fill in the details as we go.
All right, well, as you guys know, my name is Kevin Simmons. I'm from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, also known as the Trey 4. Born and raised. Went to high school, R.J. Reynolds High School. Shout out to the Demons. After I left high school, went straight to college. Went to Catawba College. Didn't work out there, so, decided to transfer, and when all that went out the way, I couldn't go nowhere basically. But then, get back in school. Finally, after a couple of years, I mean, when I mean a couple years, I mean 5 to 6 years. So when I finally got back to school, I took the advantage.
Absolutely. So how did you ultimately get your start in football, and how old were you at the time?
So yeah, my mom's, she actually put me in football at the age of 5. I was playing for the Winston-Salem Tiny Indians, and I started off at flag, playing flag, and from there I took off. I didn't miss a beat after that. Every year I played.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So for anybody out there that's playing flag football, just know that you do have a future in football if you stick with it. It might not be tackle, but it's not the end of the world. Find your route for sure.
Definitely.
So currently you play cornerback for the Rush. Have you always played defense?
Yes, sir. Always. I played both sides of the ball until I got to college.
Really? Okay. So what did you play on the other side of the ball?
I played running back and slot receiver.
Okay, that makes sense. I could see that.
I also played quarterback too. Throw that in there a little bit.
Really? Interesting. Yes, I would not have guessed that.
Yes,
so what motivates you to continue working to be better every day? And is it a need to succeed, or is it something deeper?
First, a need to succeed. All the doubters, and me just want to be different from other people from where I came from. A lot of people don't make it out where I come from, so a big accomplishment right there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to get your way in this professional football world. It's not a joke. It takes extreme dedication, and you're another perfect example of what exactly it takes to get to that level. You've been through one of the craziest stretches in football. I mean, during your high school career, you mentioned you nearly won a championship, and then talk to me about this season. How your team fell short, and ultimately what it felt like to fall just short of a championship.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let you rewind a little bit. It was actually second round, I'm gonna get to that story. But so as I told you, I was going to RJ Reynolds. Primarily, I wanted to go to Carver High School because in Winston, Carver High School was the dominant football school in high school. It's the school everybody want to go to. Everybody want to play with a certain coach and certain people, and that's the school I wanted to attend. But my mother wasn't having that. She was like, "Nah, you got too many friends. Too many people over there, so you'll be going where I graduated from." So I ended up going to Reynolds, and I actually was practicing with Reynolds that whole summer, but I was actually assigned to going to Atkins High School. Yeah. So I lived in the middle of them when I stayed with my grandmother. So I stayed in between those two schools. So it was actually between Atkins High School and East Forsyth High School. And Reynolds wasn't in there, but they was a magnet school, and I was already practicing with them. And the coaches, they liked me. They wanted me to stay, so we had to do a principal-to-principal transfer. So
interesting.
Yeah, and in order to do that, we had to. I'm not gonna lie, I had to tell a little lie, tell a little fib. So, they told me to, when I go over there, I wanted to play for Reynolds. Tell them I don't play any sports. So it'd be easier for me to go ahead and get that transfer.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like Atkins High School is a predominantly black high school.
Gotcha.
So most of the time, if you don't play sports as a young black man, if you don't play sports or something at a school, most of the time they might think you trouble or something. So, so as soon as I told them that, they signed that transfer ASAP. I'm talking. As soon as I said, "No, sir, I don't play any sports," he was like, "Okay, let's get that transfer." So
wow.
Yeah. So as soon I did that, played Reynolds. My freshman year, played on JV. I was supposed to have moved up at the end of the year when at the end of the year when varsity still playing, but I decided to go play basketball. But my sophomore year, I ended up getting moved up to varsity. Shout out to Coach Clark and Coach Probst. Then I was playing linebacker, and I was playing linebacker, running back, slot, backup quarterback. I was playing everything when I got to varsity. Then my junior year, my freshman sophomore year, we sucked. My junior year, we got a lot better. We made it to the playoffs. Now I'm starting at running back and I'm starting at outside linebacker. I'm getting bumped out to corner. You know, we lose. I want to say we lose second round of playoffs to AC Reynolds.
Interesting.
Then comes my senior year. Now I'm all in. I'm the team captain, so I'm all in. Like I'm dialed in. I'm 100% dialed in. This team right here, we gonna be better than any team we ever had. We gonna do some damage. So we come out, become undefeated. You know, we beat our rival high school, Mount Tabor High School, and then we had to play West Forsyth High School in the what was it? For the conference championship. That's probably one of the most packed out games I've ever played. I'm talking, as soon as you look in the stands, it's like a college game. Everybody just standing shoulder to shoulder. The whole track field, stands field, all the outside field. And we almost lost that game, but we had a good receiver named Jake Gainey. He ended up a miracle catch and touchdown, and we end up winning.
So, that's awesome.
We go on from there. For some reason, we dominate the first round. The second round, for some reason, we got to play our rival, Mount Tabor High School, again. Now, we beat them in the regular season, undefeated. So now we play them second round. We come out, we stumping on them. I'm talking about stumping on them. Then we come out second half, we get no calls. We got a Jake Gainey scored a touchdown. He gets called back. We had a dude named Devon Julius to score a touchdown. They said he stepped out of bounds. I dove for a touchdown, and they actually showed it on Fox 8 for a replay and everything. It was a controversial call. I scored. He played in slow motion and everything. I scored, but the referee said I didn't score. And then we end up losing by 3 to 4 points.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes sense when you say you almost won. I mean, oh, Lord, that's got to be frustrating coming out of high school, going into college. Speaking of which, so you end up leaving high school and you ended up at Catawba College, you said?
Yes, sir, Catawba College.
What prompted your decision to attend Catawba?
So, coming out of high school, I went to a couple visits, Duke, Coastal Carolina, Wake Forest, but a lot of them didn't pursue me like I thought they would have. You know, Coastal Carolina was going to be the number one option, but their recruiting coaches ended up getting fired. So Catawba, they stepped in and the recruiting coach was talking to me almost every day. My mom every day telling me what I need to do, what I need to do to get in. So ultimately, I end up choosing them. And also it was close by 45 minutes down the road from the house. So Salisbury, North Carolina, nowhere. So that was a big decision too.
Makes sense. That makes sense. So after 2 seasons, we spoke about it earlier, you end up leaving the school. What prompted that decision for you?
All right. So I was young, doing a lot of decisions, but also I really didn't want to play there no more. Like I just felt out of body, out of body, out of mind. And I wasn't feeling like myself anymore, and I wanted to get away. But I ended up redshirting my freshman year after the first 4 weeks because due to NCAA eligibility. The recruiter coach was saying that it wasn't finalized. And then the day I asked to get redshirted, I talked to the head coach that morning, and then that night going to practice, my recruiting coach was telling me, "Oh, you know your stuff got finalized, all this, blah, blah, blah." But I already missed 4 weeks, and by that time it was only 4 more weeks left until playoffs. So I decided just to redshirt, and then the next year after that, I was going to go. I wanted to go out and play again, but grade slipped, and just ultimately just end up leaving.
Gotcha. So this decision ultimately prompted a 5-year hiatus from school and football, basically. It wasn't until 2017 you found your next opportunity. What did you spend your time doing during this stretch? I mean, were you just working a job, kind of living the life, and then ultimately you just got the itch to go back to football eventually, or how did that all work?
Oof. Dude, during that time, I was depressed, man. That was a depressing time right there. No football, and I know I wanted to go to school to finish my degree. So, but the whole time I was actually working out, still trying to find a way to get into a school and finish what I started.
Gotcha. So you kind of always planned to go back, and you totally wanted to play football that entire time you were away.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think I know I was getting on my mother's nerves. I know I was getting on her nerves to the T. She was, boy, you don't leave me alone about this stuff. You know what I mean? We gonna get you right. We gonna get right. And it happened. Got back in there.
That's awesome. So as you mentioned, you got back in 2017. Talk to me about your process and how you ultimately settled on your destination.
So I have 2 close homeboys that I talk to almost on a daily. Monterius Hughley and my homeboy Jalen Day. Jalen Day actually played at Hampton University and graduated from there. And Monterius, he plays arena football too in Charlotte. But those two, Monterius was supposed to go to school that I was going to, that I eventually end up going. But Jalen, he actually put the process into motion for me. He was telling me, it was like he called me one day and was like, was I still trying to play ball and going to school? And he gave me a coach number that was down there at the school, and the coach already knew or heard of me, and because he coached at East Forsyth while I was in high school, and I ended up giving him a call. I gave him a call, sent him my highlight, and went down for a visit, and that's when they offered me.
Interesting. So you go on to attend Virginia University of Lynchburg, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What did you like about the school, or was it a situation where you were taking the next offer you got, no matter really where it was?
That's probably what it. If I was gonna take the next offer, really, probably wherever it landed me. To be honest.
Hey, 5 years away from the game, man. If you love it that much, that makes perfect sense. I would have done the same thing. So during your time at VUL, you were actually listed as a free safety and a strong safety. Did you also play cornerback, or were you primarily back deep?
I was primarily back deep.
Interesting. So you kind of made the reverse transition that most players make. I mean, we normally see cornerbacks move back to safety. You went from safety to cornerback for the rush.
Yes, sir.
That's kind of interesting. I found that very interesting when I was doing my research on you this morning. So how did this transition work for you? I mean, do you feel it was easier because you played safety and you know what a safety is looking for from a cornerback, or vice versa?
Oh, yes, sir. Definitely thought it was much easier because, like I told you before, in high school, they bumped me out to a little corner. So I already had a little more knowledge of corner experience. But as me being as a safety and me having to know more than likely what my corner has to do, and having to be the captain back there, or just even have the smarts to be back there and know what's going on, I think it was kind of easier for me.
I could totally imagine that. I mean, it makes sense when you as a defense have to operate together to get the job done. So knowing what the safety's thinking, what he's doing, it could probably help you as a cornerback, I would imagine.
Definitely.
So given this hiatus from football, your rookie year came a little bit later than most. Do you believe it's a blessing or a curse that you have this perspective that most men don't have?
Oh, hey, blessing. Nothing but blessings.
I like that. I like that. I mean, it may have come later than most, but you still got the opportunity to chase your dreams and play professional football. So there's something to be said about that for sure. And honestly, I would say you're probably one of the few. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of guys that can say that they've been through what you've been through and still ended up playing pro football. So I mean, you've got a hell of a story, man. That's for sure. I
Like
saw that you. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying, like I always say, better late than never.
That's true. I mean, absolutely. You're very young still, so you got a long playing career ahead of you. You know, even though, like we said, it came a little bit later than most. So I saw you once played around 215 pounds as a safety, but now you're listed at down around 190 pounds. Did you drop this weight to move to cornerback and give you a little bit more foot speed?
Uh, I actually never wanted to be that big, so I was always trying to get small. You know what I'm saying? And also to have the foot speed. And yeah, definitely.
Interesting. So ultimately, how did your opportunity with the Rush come about? I mean, was it a situation where you knew Coach Tate beforehand, or was it, did he find you?
Yeah, it's actually, that's funny because they found a way and found me. Shout out to Alec Husser. Yeah, he was the recruiter for that, and I was actually surprised and kind of shocked because the way he first hit me up, I was actually thinking it was a prank.
Really?
Yes, sir. I have a lot of friends out there. They do a lot of childish things, so I was actually thinking it was a prank.
Wow, that would have been interesting. I mean, you just pass up an opportunity, not realizing it's the real thing. So how did he contact you that you thought it was a prank? I mean, was he just kind of joking about it, or how did that all go about?
So at first, I know I had a missed call, but when he texted the way, because I was at work, I know when he texted me, it was kind of like, oh, this sounds like a young dude, not like a coach. You know what I'm saying? Like just the way he texted me, and then the way I texted him back, and then that's when we started communicating and getting acquainted and everything.
Gotcha. So correct me if I'm wrong, but he plays fullback. Is he also a coach?
He's the recruiter. he helps recruiting. Yes, sir.
That's crazy. So that's awesome. I love that. I love that.
Great recruiter.
Obviously, he got you there, and you're a great player. I mean, we'll talk about your statistics here in a second. Hopefully, they're accurate because I've been having some issues. But I would guess, if anything, they're going to be higher than what I'm about to say out loud. But we'll get to that in a second. Okay. What's your opinion on Coach Tate? I mean, do you believe he deserves consideration or recognition for what he's done with the Rush and ultimately maybe a job in the IFL, NAL, somewhere like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. From the stories that I heard about, you know, situations, what happened to him rebuilding the program and 2 back-to-back championships, you know, spending his own money, doing what he had to do for the team. Hey, thumbs up, Coach Tate, thumbs up me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, definitely. I agree. I've had a couple conversations with him. He seems like a really good dude. He talks up his players a lot, which I always love to see in a coach, because in my mind, if you're coaching a guy and you're at the level of the AWFC, you know these players want to make it to the next level. You know they're looking at this as a stepping stone. So rather than fight it, you promote it. Hey, man, I want to help you get to the next level. I want to help you achieve your dreams. And that's the way that Rico Brown and Brandon Tate strike me. And I think that's a big reason why I like to support this league, because they're out there trying to support you guys as players. And that's what every league should do in my mind.
Yes, sir.
So you end up teaming with an insanely talented secondary. I mean, I was looking at the statistics, and again, they're probably not 100% accurate, but I mean, you, Tyler Merkel, and Bemnet Morgan, I mean, 21 interceptions for you three in just 8 games. Talk to me about what went into the success for your secondary. I mean, was it just, were you guys just that elite, or was it communication, coaching? What was it that added up to that?
First off, it was we can't do nothing without our D line. Our D, we wouldn't be anything without D line. So they get much of the respect. And if it wasn't for them, we probably wouldn't have nowhere near those interceptions.
I could see that.
Yeah, and then it comes communication. Always communication is probably one of the biggest things on the field. So if I can communicate to you and trust you to do what I ask you to do, or you do what I ask you to do, or you know what I'm saying, vice versa, then that's great on the field.
Agreed. We talked about it before. I mean, having that ability to communicate with your players and play off of each other allows you to be better as a defensive unit. So, yeah. I mean, it showed up on the field this season for sure. And the man that we just spoke to is tuning in as well. He says, facts, their defensive line is crazy good. So that's coming from a quarterback who unfortunately had to face the ferocity of that pass rush in the championship game, and he ended up on the losing end. So he has great insight into what they provide to you.
Yes, sir. And I'm also got to give shout out to my middle linebacker and my jack linebacker. Those two right there, ballers.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Sedarius Rickard, yes, sir. That jack linebacker spot right there. And Greg Hancock, hey, ballers.
Absolutely. I almost actually mentioned the jack linebacker as a position in the secondary, but I was like, he's technically a linebacker. We'll leave him out. So, but he's amazing. He is amazing for sure.
Hey, you know what's crazy about our secondary? Our secondary can switch. Like, we could put anybody anywhere and we'll all fit in.
That's an amazing versatility to have for a coach. I'm sure they love that. Mm-hmm. So your rookie year, as we spoke about, couldn't have gone much better. You end up undefeated, and in the meantime, you produce, again, these may be incorrect, so correct me if I'm wrong, 32 tackles, 6 interceptions, and 5 tip passes. Do you consider this as a success, or is there a lot more to come from Kevin Simmons in the future?
Oh, definitely a lot more to come. It's definitely a success because I made second team defense with those stats. Well, a couple stats, missing, but but yeah, it's definitely a success. I can't complain not one bit.
Absolutely. Hey, AWFC, if you're listening, can we please work on that stat department? That's the one complaint I have for the whole league. You guys are legit, but the stats leave something to be desired. It seems like everything I say is wrong when it comes to that. So the entire reason you and I came into contact was that you were looking at the XFL showcases. Did you end up attending one?
So when I was sent my money in, but they sent it back because they had already filled all the spots. So now I'm just waiting on the opportunity. I'm working with somebody right now, so hopefully he can get me in there.
Absolutely. I've spoke about it before. I actually posted publicly about it today. Sometimes proper representation can be all the difference for a player who's looking to get in. So, I mean, whoever you're working with, man, I hope you found somebody with great connections and that can help you get where you need to be, because you definitely belong at a higher level.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So right now, luckily for players, there's more opportunity than ever before. I mean, we've got the USFL, the FCF, the IFL, the AWFC, the XFL. I mean, I could go on for days about all the different leagues that are providing opportunities. Do you believe this has helped you in your particular pursuit of football?
Definitely. Yes, sir. This just gave me another step towards me getting back out there to XFL, USFL, or something.
Absolutely. So I feel like I know the answer to this question, but you would obviously consider the USFL, the CFL, the IFL, the FCF if an offer came your way?
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely.
Love it.
But if not, then if my boys want me back, then I go back to with my boys.
I love that answer. In my particular opinion, I believe the AWFC is on its way up. So sticking around there may not be the worst idea either. Maybe someday we see them rival the IFL.
Right.
I mean,
hopefully that definitely would be lovely.
Definitely. So talk to me about what the rush provided to you as a player that helped you find success so quickly on and hopefully off the field as well.
They helped me grow up more as a man. So, having to come from all the way from North Carolina, from the East Coast all the way to West Coast, having to trust new people, stay with other folks, having to be with them around them 24/7. Definitely had to grow up a little more. My professionalism helped my professionalism out a lot more. Also, like I said, my first year pro, so I had to learn to, not do stuff that I would have done my college days out in public, or just watch my tone and the way I do things.
That makes sense. I mean, obviously there's a bigger spotlight on you as a professional football player than maybe a college football player. So I definitely don't want to be ruining that opportunity with anything you may or may not do off the field. So I'm curious. We talked about how the opportunity ultimately came about with the Rush. They found you, but I mean, how were you contacted? I mean, Alec just called you and that was that? And you were basically sold?
So I actually, before that, I played in a showcase. It was all the way in Alabama, I want to say. Me and my Terry Sugley went out there. Got some more film, and then Javaris Drinker. I think I want to say he helped send my highlight film to around. And I want to say Alec hit him up and then, hit me up. And then that's when Alec, we was talking, if not every day, every other day. And I was looking up Tri-City Rush, trying to figure out who they was, what they was on, if it was legit, you know what I'm saying, or a scam. But when I was going through everything, talking to my peoples, they was like, hey, why not? You know what I'm saying? It's a big opportunity. Why not? You've been wanting to go play, so hey, go ahead.
Yeah, for real. I mean, it may not necessarily be the opportunity you always dreamed of, the NFL, but at the same time, it's a stepping stone to hopefully being in one of these bigger leagues at some point. And like we spoke about just a minute ago, the AWFC is definitely on the up and up. So it's only a matter of time before they're regarded as one of those bigger leagues in my mind.
Yes, sir, definitely.
So I'm curious. You said you were looking up the Tri-City Rush, so I assume I know the answer to this. You had probably never heard of the AWFC prior to the offer, huh?
Yes, sir, never.
I'm kind of interested how that all works, because it seems like a lot of the guys that end up there are kind of in the same situation. They've never heard of the league before. They're recruited by a player or maybe a coach or something like that, and they kind of just dive in with faith. I mean, talk to me about what it must be like to ultimately have to take on somebody else's word that this is a good opportunity for you.
Was like I've been through it before, like in college, you got to take a coach's word for what it is and take everything for what it is. If I'll say nothing will ever be, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll always take everything for what it is, even if it's a bad situation. I'll always learn from it. So
there you go.
Yeah, so that right there, coming down here and coming to play was really not too hard, because like I said, I was talking to Alec almost, if not every day, every other day, and the trust started to build up a little more, and he started to, you know what I'm saying, get, if not friends, be more a coaching and a player situation.
I like that. I mean, that's a good way to approach it from his perspective. I mean, if you want to bring somebody in, you develop a relationship with one. And it sounds like that's exactly what he did. So it's a very smart play on his part. I assume you know a Keandra Simmons?
Yes, sir. That's my sister.
Awesome. Well, tell her thank you when you see her next for tuning in, if she's not watching at this point. So I'm going to leave you with one last question. where will we find you when the playing career is over? I mean, are you going to be a coach? Are you in broadcasting? You obviously love football, so I feel like it's going to be connected to that somehow.
Yes, sir. In the future, so hopefully coaching, training, maybe some broadcasting soon. But
There you go.
Definitely see me coaching and doing some training.
Definitely. I mean, obviously, you would be a great physical trainer. You're obviously in great shape, playing damn near every position on the field at one point or another. So it makes perfect sense that you could definitely teach some people how to train their bodies in a proper manner.
Yes,
so I apologize. We ran through these questions really quick. Normally, I give everybody an hour, but this was really fast.
Hey, it's all right, man. It's nothing. It's all right.
Definitely. Well, we'll definitely have to chop it up again because I feel like big things are in your future, Kevin. I mean, you have a great mentality. You're a hard worker. And more importantly, man, like I said, you seem like a good dude. You're just really respectful. You have a very positive mindset. And I think with that alone, you're going to end up finding success.
Hey, I appreciate that. Like, all glory to God. And my mother, my grandmother, and my sister. Hey, trust me, if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be in the situation I was in.
Absolutely. So before we get off of here, like I said, we used almost, half the time I would normally give to anybody else. So is there anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here? I mean, anybody you want to shout out, anything like that?
I just shout out to, like you said, my mother, my grandmother, my father, Kevin Simmons Sr., my sisters. Shout out to all my friends, my homies, all everyone who had my back. Shout out to everyone in Washington who helped me out. Coaches, definitely shout out to the Tri-City coaches and my Tri-City family. Definitely. Them, hey, they always got a place in my heart. Always.
That's awesome. As they should, man. Giving you your first opportunity. That's an amazing place to have in your heart for sure. Your sister says, thank you so much for the opportunity, but I would argue that this was my opportunity to hear an amazing story from a great man who I fully believe is going to have great things in his future. So once again, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Again, I apologize that it was so short, but like I said, we'll definitely get you on again for a whole nother episode, standalone by yourself. How does that sound?
Yes, sir. I appreciate. Hey, I don't care how long it took. Hey, I appreciate you bringing me on.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's a lot of fun, like I said, learning all your guys' stories and hearing everything you guys overcame to get where you're at. It's inspiring. And I haven't really talked to you about this fact, but a big reason I'm in this is for my kids. I've got 2 little boys who I want to show that you can overcome anything with enough determination and inspiration, motivation. And that's exactly what all these stories that you guys have given me is doing. Eventually, I'm going to show my kids this, and I'm going to say, hey, look, you've got a lot more advantages that maybe some of these guys didn't. And look what they did with their lives. You know what I mean? So, like, you can do whatever you want to do. You just have to work hard at it. And from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you. Thank you for giving me that opportunity to show my kids. And then from another perspective, thank you for giving me the opportunity to cover football, because without you guys, I wouldn't be here. So just for real, just know that I appreciate everything that all of you guys have done for me, let alone giving me this platform, because I wouldn't have it without you guys. So I appreciate it.
Definitely. Thank you again. For real.
Absolutely. So with that being said, I'm going to let you get out of here, man. Have a great rest of your night. And again, we'll stay in touch and chop it up again in the future.
Sir, stay blessed.
Absolutely. Thank you. So once again, everybody, that was Kevin Simmons, defensive back of the undefeated Tri-City Rush, one of the most amazing players in that league. And just a quick reminder, if you are going to be going to any sporting events anytime soon, please use SeatGeek, our sponsor, and use our code SHADY at checkout for $20 off of any tickets, and save yourself some money while supporting independent media. I'm a big fan of independent media, as you can tell. I think that having that big money and outside influences from investors such provides a little bit jaded outlook. We don't want that here. We want the outlook from the players. We want them to have a platform to speak about their career and speak about themselves, how they view fit. And so far, I think we've achieved that Thanks to everybody who is watching currently. And just a quick reminder, make sure you hit that like button. We cannot get this video pushed out to new audiences without you doing so. So help us promote Kevin, help us promote Lorenz by hitting that like button, by sharing this with your friends. Put it on every social media account you have, please, for these guys' sake, because they deserve the opportunity at the next level. With that being said, I'm going to call it a night. I really appreciate all the support once again, and I'll speak at you guys later. Oh, one more comment real quick. Katie Smith says, great player and a great man. Can't wait to see what the future has in store for him. I agree, Katie, and thank you for tuning in right here at the end.